Hi, welcome once again to our monthly chat show. Today we will be launching or rather renaming our expert talk to being called as MAYRA Meet Our Mentor. And today we are very proud to have one of our distinguished mentors on board, Mr. David G. David is a very senior leader, an executive with a proven track record of driving digital transformation, fortifying risk management frameworks, and enhancing cybersecurity posture across global financial services and pharmaceutical organizations. David G brings extensive executive management experience from HSBC, Macquarie Group, and Eli Lilly, coupled with the deep understanding of complex regulatory environments and emerging technologies. He is a forward-thinking board member, adept at navigating dynamic markets and delivering sustainable value. Additionally, David is a best-selling author, recognized digital and cyber thought leader, and critical infrastructure ambassador, regularly contributing to leading publications such as Foundry CIO and CSO magazine, with more than 1.8 million readership, and AICD Australia, shaping industry discourse on technology, risk, and leadership. His best-selling book, The Aspiring CIO and CISO, has been recognized as a top 10 must-read for security leaders. The book was also noted as 8 new career guidebooks that are reshaping 2025. And his new book, A Day in the Life of a CISO, is already available on Amazon and is a bestseller in a few countries. So congratulations, David. Honestly, it's been a thrilling ride last couple of years, and me knowing you and your publications has been nothing short of huge inspiration and knowledge. So welcome on our show today.
Namaste, thank you.
Namaste, namaste. So, David, over to you. Before I shoot questions, my first question would rather be your latest release, A Day in the Life of a CISO. What is it all about, and how is it
Thank you.
from the earlier one, The Aspiring CISO?
Yeah, my first book, I retired from Macquarie about 15 months ago, and I started writing two books at the same time. And the first book was just my stories about how I became a CIO and CISO. So if I guess I sort of mentioned that in passing that I've done a 25-year career as a CIO and CISO. My last role actually was heading tech, cyber, and data risk for Macquarie. And so I thought as I was writing the first book, Divya, I thought actually it'd be kind of nice to actually have lots of opinions, not just my war stories and my scar tissue, but having others. And so I started this journey of asking some of my peers, and so I ended up with this book, which has been launched in just early October and number one in 4 or 5 countries now. But it's because of the stars I have in my group. It's not me. It's actually because they're all telling their own war stories about their careers and what they did and what mistakes they've made. And the thing is that I remember there's one of the CISOs in New York mentioned that the quote saying, "When you're a CISO in your first role, you always will fail." So failure is just a way to learn, as long as you can think about it and reflect on. So I think in my career, I've learned from doing good things and doing things not so good, and then learning from that and then pivoting.
Yes, 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 yes. So this is a compilation of all CIOs.
Yeah, so there are 24 CISOs in this book, and there's a couple of others who are in the ecosystem, like vendors, and one guy who was the chief advisor at Microsoft, and there's now a chief digital risk officer from McKinsey who was just doing cyber strategy. So I had 28 people, but I didn't mean to have 28 people, and the book is it's quite big. It's 550 pages, so. But I kept collecting, more and more people in India and in Japan and Europe, and saying I need another person that's got non-financial services background or gas and oil and different things. So I had to stop and say no, enough. So,
Yeah. And
but
there's
it's
so
really
much
fun.
happening. Yeah. So, what do you think is different in this book compared to the previous one? Because the previous one I've read, David, and it's exhaustive. I mean, it really tells you the first 90 days and how you need to prepare yourself, how you need to.
Yeah, no, and it was all like often my own war stories, right? So, and then this one's so different because of all the diversity of thought and patterns, and I did a count back on this one when I summarized and thought about, okay, I've got 28 people in the book, 20, including myself, 29 people. And then there's actually 740 years of work experience in this book.
Mm.
And then I thought, actually, let me think. Oh, actually, I've got quite a diverse group. And I wasn't trying to be woke or anything, for policy standpoint, but I with 43% female in this book. And then I think color. And I started looking through, and there's like 50%, 53% people of color in this book. But it wasn't I wasn't trying to be diverse, or I just found people who were willing to participate and willing to give back. And so, but yeah, this is a great diversity of thought, because you find that even though they individually wrote with me,
Mm.
sometimes there are themes that are common. Talk about, imposter syndrome, so we know that when you're a new leader, you think, oh, I couldn't do this, or, I'm not ready for this. And so a lot of people wrote about that as being, I didn't feel quite ready or quite right, or and I felt like I was an imposter. And then I had to learn to have confidence and learn to have the composure and the executive presence
Hmm.
to do that. So it's interesting. I was coaching a guy last week, and he came to one of my sessions I'd had early in the week, and he asked me to invite him in coaching. And literally, saying he was trying to get the word presence. And I said, so presence means sometimes not talking. Sometimes it means just pausing and making people wait for your answer, because it sounds like you have all the answers for people. Actually, you just need to think about mixing up a little bit, right? And so, yeah, it's quite sometimes quite subtle, the coaching you need to provide different people depending on where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's wonderfully put, and I think the diversity part really holds true right now because we're going through a lot of influx all around at this point of time. So, honestly, David, straight jumping to an area which is probably something you would have answered many times in the recent months. But yeah, we're in the thick of a technological revolution with AI all around us. As a technocrat who has seen multiple transformations in his career, what's your opinion on this current wave that's creating a panic situation? What should we be alert about the most?
No, look, I think there is somewhat panic. There's also concern around where does the world end at the end. So I understand that. Definitely the pace of change, the velocity is crazy. Okay, and it's always been a bit crazy, but this is more crazy than this has been definitely a step change in terms of acceleration. So to me, if I go back a step, I think, for me, as a leader, I was always, doing different hats I wore, being a CIO, CISO, risk management. I was always the person who cared about transformation. So transformation means I help organizations transform, I help people transform, but also to transform myself. So it doesn't, everybody else doesn't have to change and just not me. So I have to start with me. Okay. So me, I've got to change and transform myself, to which means to the point is, how do I become a quick learner? How do I adapt to the situation? Whatever that means, and different stages of, because for me, working in 5 countries, I think different languages, different cultures, different companies. And so you mentioned pharmaceutical and financial services, and then insurance, and then I was there building materials, and then consulting with KPMG and EY, and gosh, I worked in newspapers and television, and I keep going on. So you had to adapt to different learnings or processes and things, but there's also the constant is change. And so how do you make yourself adapt to that change and help your teams also learn to go with that? So don't feel drunk by the punches and the change, but actually work with that and accept that. So it's definitely a challenge, I think, for sure. And I get up at 4 o'clock most mornings, and I watch YouTube and learn new things. And if I don't do that, you get behind. And so to me, it's a constant challenge around keeping yourself relevant.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the kind of a common trend which is coming across countries that we need to focus on learning and upskilling ourselves immediately and faster because it's really changing very fast day by day. Something new is coming up. And that's great to know, especially coming from you, David, since you've been at the helm of affairs all along. But as a mentor on the board, how would you mentor executives navigating the tech industry today? What's your biggest insight for them? Because many are sitting at mid-management or they're entering senior roles. So as a mentor, how would you guide?
And it always depends, of course, on the person and what they're missing. But for many tech executives, whether it costs tech, cyber, data, AI, they've been promoted for certain reasons, and the reason is usually about delivery. They've been able to deliver things, to get things done. Now, as a leader, you have less and less hands-on requirements, right? It's more about asking questions rather than knowing all the answers. And so for me, there's often a piece around soft skills, the soft skills being really, really important to have. And so we know that as you're younger, and this is my first book, the skills and knowledge and the experience of behavior, the skills and knowledge are really paramount when you're younger, but they become your foundations. And so your experience, your behavior to actually have experience being really stretched and not showing that, having the behavior to say no to boards or say no to management, but say it's no because we need to do this first, and then we can do the AI project. To me, as I coach people, I try to get them to think about where they are and what would be the one or two things to tweak. Now, don't try to boil the ocean. Try to change yourself 100% because you can't. Just work on a few things, and then over time you'll see that those tweaks and changes. Because I talk about that, and when I speak to them, say when I was younger and I was 27 years old, public speaking scared me. Okay, and I didn't want to do it, so I volunteered to do smaller groups, and I may have mentioned it, Divya. When I was 27, I had a team of three. And then one stage, they fired the person above me and they said, David, you now run this team of 50, 45, 50. And I was 27 and I was like, oh my gosh, how do I speak to 50 people? And they know more than I do. They have master's degrees and PhDs, and they're smarter than I am, they're older than I am. How do I get them to follow me? And so I had to learn to listen, but also then try to figure out how do I inspire them? How do I then practice being confident to talk without notes and do a small workshop with 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, 200, 1,000 people, 5,000, and say different countries. So now I love doing this without script. But when I was 27, it was like, oh my gosh, I nervous and wanted to be very careful what I said. And so for every one of us, we have the opportunities to build ourselves to something where we're not comfortable and become comfortable if we focus on that.
Right, right. And I think that's again kind of going back to learning, start doing things which you are not very comfortable doing and keep yourself relevant. But coming from a technology point specifically, David, I think the way things are changing, especially in the banking, insurance, and the industries that you've been, a lot of things are also getting automated and people are really fearing loss of jobs. What's your take on it?
It's fair. It's fair. Look, I think if you actually work on your soft skills, you work on your own career development, then you can make yourself somewhat future-proof, right? Because you've worked on that. So to me, it's about applying yourself, I think, and trying to then work out, where's the ball going? Where's that puck going? How do I work with that and get myself positioned so I understand AI, I understand LLM models, I understand how to use them. I'll train my own model, So I think rather than rejecting it or even being a spectator and saying that's changing, that's bad, go with that, So for me, I'm in two minds, right? So I'm a grandfather, so I worry about my grandkids' ability to have a job. But then at the same time, I do work with Israeli firms that do work around agentic AI and said actually this will come in because agentic AI just replaces humans and repetitive human elements with a robot. So do I want my kids to have grandkids to have a job? Yes, but actually, do I just say I'm not going to do it that won't make a difference? So how do I embrace that, but also at the same time, be conscious about how we do use these technologies? So I think it's important to have that balance, if that makes sense.
Right, right, right. I think that is the fundamental truth that, we just need to figure out what we need to learn and get ourselves into the ship and just move ahead. David, I want to ask you, what is your forecast for the skills that would be in demand and the industry trends in 2026? We're closing 2025 now. What's your forecast? And, I will again jump to your book in the next few.
No, thank you.
But
Well,
I wanted to check with you. What's your forecast?
look, I will also work as an advisor for a recruiting firm, so I do tech, cyber, data, AI recruitment for different banks and insurance companies and the like. So I'm talking to a lot of candidates, and I was talking to a lot of hiring managers around they're looking for. So they were looking for unicorns. They're looking for AI skills, looking for data scientists and AI skills. Cybersecurity, of course, is huge, and there's 3.8 million, roles short globally, and so that's not changed. Even with AI being used within cybersecurity, you still have a massive shortage. But you need people who can actually work in cybersecurity and work with AI, not reject it.
Yeah.
So there, I think all those, traditional things around cloud and technology and DevOps and building systems and digital, that's still in demand. So none of those things are going to change. You may indeed use AI to help you do that and generate that code, but you still need to be able to go and check it and verify it. So I think they're the hot areas right now. Probably accelerated in a few.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And I think these are the roles trending right now in a big way, especially the ones you mentioned of data scientists and cybersecurity. Uh, if I may ask you that, while when we're talking about industries per se, it is financial services and technology is where, of course, historically all the action rests. But I'm yet to get my hands on the book, but you've spoken to so many CIOs and CTOs for your book as well. What's the kind of, when you're talking about other industries like the brick and mortar, the manufacturing industries, the old school industries that have been, what's your take input on people who are in those sectors? What do they need to keep in mind?
Well, look, I mean, if you're in non-financial services, hospitals and education and other areas, you're being attacked. Okay, so you're being perceived as being weaker than the banks and insurance companies. So therefore, the bad guys will say, well, actually, I'll go and target them. And so you look at any statistics, and so it's year on year, 2025, 40% increase from the previous year's number of attacks. But they're also attacking the weak links as well. So their jobs aren't easy. And so yes, maybe they're changing somewhat slower. Maybe it's still a little bit slower, but they're still being asked to change. Their business still want to use AI. Their business is still concerned about cybersecurity. Their business want to be digitized and make those changes happening. So and of course also in the other organizations they may have less resources to work with. So as a CIO or CISO, you feel constrained on one hand tied behind your back because you can't get stuff done even though everybody wants you to do it. And so I think the challenges are still there. As a leader, it doesn't matter what industry and sector you're in. You still need to be, leading through that change and showing that you can actually try to, as much as possible, lead that change in a positive fashion.
Right, right. I think that's quite brilliant because most of the times, when we are talking to candidates, they're coming from diverse industries and backgrounds and really very, very different countries and regions, and they just don't know where do they fit in this entire action that's happening. So this is very well put. It's all about having a forecast for yourself also. How do you see yourself? So, before we close, David, I would like you to, give us some snippets from your book, A Day in the Life of a CISO. And I want to, really understand what are some of the, best parts. If you can take the next few minutes, I think that would get our
Sure.
viewers to really.
I'll try to summarize. Being 500 pages, 550 pages, it's hard to condense that. I did mention about the imposter syndrome. I did mention also about basics. Many of the CISOs spoke about focus on the basics. Don't get enamored with the shiny, sexy new things. Right? Get the basics right. Every CISO in this book talked about looking after their team, supporting their team, being a good people leader. Because if you don't do that, then under stress, and if you're stressed, then actually you pass it on to your team. That's not going to be very good. So how do you do that? Stakeholder management is really important. So it doesn't matter if you're a CISO or actually one of the team members that report to the CISO. Stakeholder management occurs at every level. So if you're not having, good relationships with your business partners and customers and on technology and non-technology roles, then it's impossible for the CISO to do this or CIO to do this without you also engaging. And so it's a bit of a team effort to do that. Another one I'd like to highlight is around, and I put it in the summary chapter 30. People often talk about, you have so little time because you're under so much stress. So really good example, Sandro, the Chief Security Officer from National Australia Bank, just the top left-hand corner here. Sandro comes from South Africa and he's worked in Dubai and he's worked in London. He's been 5, 6, 7 years, I think, now in Australia as a CISO. And now I contacted him in May 2024 and he said, yes, I'm going to be in your book. Then waiting for his EA to say, yes, he's available. I think it was in November, December 2024. We had a half an hour. And I was about to go on stage to speak at a conference, a payments conference. And I said, okay, let's just get on stage, get on Zoom, press record, let's talk. And I'll take the words, 25 pages of ums and ahs and gibberish and put it into a text. And then over 5 sessions like that, once in his car, one is at home, we created a 25-page chapter or whatever it was of his. So these guys they're really busy. So then how do you distinguish between what I call time management versus priority management? And so they sound the same, but they're not the same. They're actually connected. And so for me, I would say that the people who succeed are ones who are great at priority management. They can figure out what's really important to do today, the 1, 2, 3 most important things to do today, and then go home. Don't stay in the office all day long, because getting that balance or trying to have some sort of balance is important. The time management is part of that, right? Because time management is actually trying to then, don't waste your time doing things, but priority management is more important because time management is more tactical, priority management is more strategic. And so for me, the guys and girls who get to the top are really good at priority management.
Wow, I've just now learned about priority management. Thank you, David. So yeah, because time management, I'm thinking it's just like quite little operational every day, how I'm managing my time, the day, how it'll look like. But priority management, yeah, we know prioritize, but this term which you use, priority management, is something we didn't think about it.
To me, it's mindfulness, right? It's the, often I do yoga often in the mornings. And so I do yoga at 7 or 8 o'clock in the mornings, and I get clear in my mind as to actually today I need to do these things. And while I'm doing, some pose, I'm thinking about my priorities for the day. And I come out very clear and no conflict on my head to say, this is what I need to do. And then if I need to change, I need to then readjust. But I have clarity every morning.
I think this really brings, kind of reinforces a very important fact is to give yourself just that me time in the morning where you don't need to clear your brain. Your brain is full of so many things, but just that quiet time, you can be doing your meditation, yoga, exercise, gym, whatever, but that's that morning energy, it really gets soaked up out there.
And we have so much distractions. People walk around their phones, looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And we just need to, there's a Harvard professor I watch who talks on this topic around, avoiding those distractions.
Yeah.
To allow yourself to be bored, to allow yourself quiet time to reflect. You're not really bored, okay? You're just thinking about what's important. And then when you think about what's important, then actually you start prioritizing your life around your career and your family and your religion and your beliefs and everything else versus actually just being busy. And because otherwise we're busy and we worry about, we need to do this message now. And actually we miss the point, because in your career, you want to be successful, but you also want to get the balance right in your life as well. So how do you get that right without having clarity in your head?
Right. David, we need to have a really long session, another one, but I need to keep a check on the time. This is brilliant already. I think it's an eye-opener for me, and I'm sure for our viewers as well, because it's down to fundamentals, getting your discipline in place, your priority management, as we learned today. And of course, from your book, which is certainly on my next, reading list, A Day in the Life of a CISO, where we will be talking about imposter syndrome, stress management, stakeholder management, and like the bit of horizontal management and downward management. It's all about, again, relationships. So it's very basic human capabilities that we already have. We need to keep them intact and not lose it along the way. So this is really good. Just to get a recap once again, David, on your very, very valuable inputs today. I think the executive presence, which you spoke about, that is extremely important, and especially as a mentor. And we would like to guide most of our clients that how you present yourself is often not the way you're looking, but also just to being quiet, just listening or pausing in between, as you mentioned, and adapting to change. With the huge technological revolution happening all around us, we need to upskill ourselves, and there's no way out. So whichever industry you are part of, get a forecast map for yourself in place immediately. And the skills for 2026, especially in the tech, financial services, and related industries, and in your own industry, also would be anything from unicorns, data scientists, cybersecurity, AI, as mentioned by David. And David, we would be very glad if you can mentor our clients, and anybody who's watching us today would like to know more and would like to seek David's guidance, please reach out to us directly or to David G directly. We'll be tagging him on our post today. You can directly seek his mentorship. And for a full career mapping and planning of your career goals, please reach out to us at MAYRA. David, thank you once again. Any closing thoughts before I call it off?
No, I think I've always enjoyed growing talent. And so to me, making people the best versions of themselves is important. And so all of us can operate in a band. And I often talk about this, that David operates between 5 and 7 out of 10. And so how do I, as a leader, get David to be motivated, clear of mind, to get to be acting like a 7, maybe even an 8 some days. But some days when things aren't going so great, I act like a 5. So my job is to lift these people up to be great team workers. They work well together, have good teamwork, so it's not negative to attracting each other, but also working at their best level, because that's the essence of leadership, that you can get the best out of people and make people operate at their highest levels.
Yes, and it's very deep. It starts with self.
It does.
But so great, so great. Your insights were really enlightening and eye-opening. Thank you so much, David. And I hope we get into another conversation once again, because there's a lot. I know you're full of knowledge and insights and guidance. But thank you so much. And we look forward to also, getting our hands on your next book. So thank you for your time again. Bye.